Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be discussing 1984 by George Orwell. There isn't too much that hasn't already been said about this book, and so rather than give you a typical review, it is on my all-time list that's back there on that shelf. But I thought I would just read some excerpts, comment here and there, but otherwise I'm going to defer to many, many other book reviews that are probably on YouTube and elsewhere that sum up the book very well. Effectively, it is the great dystopian novel, I would argue. But there are so many things that we take from it that you may not know, even if you've never read the book before. So as I read some of these passages, you might recognize something you're used to, or you've heard before, but you didn't realize came from this book. So we'll start at the very beginning, the three mottos of the party: war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And those ideas really underline what things that we've seen all the time in our modern era. We're going to Iraq to get weapons of mass destruction. Oh, wait, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Well, what made you think we were going there for? We were there for women's rights and to bring democracy. But that's not what you said before. Oh, that's what we've always said. And this sort of policy plays out, but it's taken almost straight out of here. I'm not saying that the people who did it read 1984 and inspired. Rather, Orwell knows what the sorts of people are who run governments, and he simply put together the blueprints, and those blueprints were followed just as well when the book was written as it is today. The party said that Oceania had never been in alliance with Eurasia. He, Winston Smith, knew that Oceania had been in alliance with Eurasia as short a time as 4 years ago. But where did that knowledge exist? Only in his own consciousness, which in any case must soon be annihilated. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past, ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. And yet the past, though of its nature alterable, never had been altered. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they called it. In newspeak, doublethink. This can happen somewhat in the age of the internet. Wikipedia is always being revised by people who are warring with each other. And what is the truth that can be gleaned from that? But in other cases, we've seen celebrities employ agencies to take down articles that are critical of their people, such that you will not be able to find out what the real story was. So while they're not able to do exactly what is talked about here, where the party controls the press and is able to delete newspapers and remove things and change stories, we have a mode of that, a type of that in the internet. And we see it happen all the time. Winston did not know why Withers had been disgraced. Perhaps it was for corruption or incompetence. Perhaps Big Brother was merely getting rid of a too popular subordinate. Perhaps Withers or someone close to him had been suspected of heretical tendencies. Or perhaps, what was likeliest of all, the thing had simply happened because purges and vaporizations were a necessary part of the mechanics of government. The only real clue lay in the words refs unpersons, which indicated that Withers was already dead. You could not invariably assume this to be the case when people were arrested. Sometimes they were released and allowed to remain at liberty for as much as a year or 2 years before being executed. Very occasionally, some persons whom you had believed dead long since would make a ghostly reappearance at some public trial, where he would implicate hundreds of others by his testimony before vanishing, this time forever. Withers, however, was already an unperson. He did not exist. He had never existed. Winston decided that it would not be enough simply to reverse the tendency of Big Brother's speech. It was better to make it deal with something totally unconnected with its original subject. So the unpersoning, we see this in cancel culture, in which someone says something that is unacceptable to a certain group of people or to a particular country, and they must be canceled. Orwell's talking about this in this book, long before such a thing existed. The smallest thing could give you away. A nervous tic, an unconscious look of anxiety, a habit of muttering to yourself, anything that carried with it the suggestion of abnormality, of having something to hide. In any case, to wear an improper expression on your face, to look incredulous when a victory was announced, for example, was itself a punishable offense. There was even a word for it in Newspeak. Face crime, it was called. And now our faces are being monitored all over. If you've flown anywhere in the developed world in the last year or two, you'll notice that now they're starting to connect our biometrics such that your face is now your boarding pass because everything's been connected. They're arguing it's for security purposes, and it very well may help with security, but to pretend that it's not connected to anything else is naive. And so all the CCTV cameras, not just in England, but in other places, which are observing people all the time, at some point, too, the AI is going to recognize your expressions. It's not enough just to recognize your face. What is this person thinking? What is this person saying? And the AI can put all that together in a catalog. It's not any extra work for the computer. Obviously, there's more processing, but if they want that, they can do that. He remembered how once he had been walking down a crowded street when a tremendous shout of hundreds of voices, women's voices, had burst from a side street a little way ahead. It was a great, formidable cry of anger and despair, a deep, loud "Oh!" that went humming on like the reverberation of a bell. His heart had leapt. It started, he had thought, a riot. The proles are breaking loose at last. When he had reached the spot, it was to see a mob of 200 or 300 women crowding around the stalls of a street market, with faces as tragic as though they had been the doomed passengers on a sinking ship. But at this moment the general despair broke down into a multitude of individual quarrels. It appeared that one of the stalls had been selling tin saucepans. They were wretched, flimsy things, but cooking pots of any kind were always difficult to get. Now the supply had unexpectedly given out. The successful women, bumped and jostled by the rest, were trying to make off with their saucepans, while dozens of others clamored round the stall, accusing the stall-keeper of favoritism and of having more saucepans somewhere else in reserve. There was a fresh outburst of yells. 2 bloated women, one of them with her hair coming down, had got a hold of the same saucepan and were trying to tear it out of one another's hands. For a moment they were both tugging, and then the handle came off. Winston watched them disgustedly. And yet, just for a moment, when what almost frightening power had sounded in that cry from only a few hundred throats? Why was it that they could never shout like that about anything that mattered? And then there's a quote, "Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious." If you've ever searched on social media or other places for Black Friday, you will see videos encapsulating what Orwell was describing in this book, decades before there was such a thing as Black Friday. People going in mesmerized by I have to get this computer, television, printer, gadget, whatever it might be, and they're willing to risk being trampled. There have been people that have been trampled at Black Friday events. Risk being trampled, people fighting. You've seen moms fighting over, I don't know, game consoles for their kids. This is the sort of thing. And he asks the question, why was it they could never shout like that about anything that mattered? Your government steals from you, your government surveils you, your government requires you to inject yourself with an unproven medical experiment. No problem. Someone's trying to steal your saucepan? Okay, now we're going to have a fight. The sexual puritanism of the party was not imposed upon them, meaning the proles. Promiscuity went unpunished. Divorce was permitted. For that matter, even religious worship would have been permitted if the proles had shown any sign of needing or wanting it. They were beneath suspicion. As the party slogan put it, proles and animals are free. And even here Orwell, not known as a great believer himself, is noting that divorce as a destructive force is permitted for the proles because they're like animals. Let them do what they want. Underlining the fact that stable societies, strong societies, are undergirded by families. Complete, intact families, not broken families, reformed, broken. People on their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th marriage. He picked up the children's history book and looked at the portrait of Big Brother, which formed its frontispiece. The hypnotic eyes gazed into his own. It was as though some huge force were pressing down upon you, something that penetrated inside your skull, battering against your brain, frightening you out of your beliefs, persuading you almost to deny the evidence of your senses. In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it. Not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their philosophy. The heresy of heresies was common sense. And what was terrifying was not that they would kill you for thinking otherwise, but that they might be right. For after all, how do we know that 2 and 2 make 4? Or that the force of gravity works? Or that the past is unchangeable? If both the past and the external world exist only in the mind, and if the mind itself is controllable, what then? I was going to say beautiful, but powerful, really. More powerful than beautiful here. And we've heard these mantras in recent years. I'm doing this review in 2025, but trust the science, stay home, save lives, flatten the curve. We heard people safe and effective. We heard people repeat these catchphrases because they were told to repeat them by other people, but they don't actually know what any of it means. They just repeat it. And that's exactly the sort of thing that's going on here. 2 + 2 = 5. I've said before, Anthony Fauci said, when he was asked about wearing masks, he said, no, only sick people should wear masks. No one else should wear masks. 7 days later, he turns around and says, well, everyone should wear masks, even outdoors. How am I supposed to trust the science if the science person says only sick people should wear masks and then he changes his mind 7 days later? I thought science was settled. If you're enjoying this content, please consider hitting like, subscribe. It's a way for you to share this content and help get it out to other people who might be interested. He tried to think of O'Brien, for whom or to whom the diary was written, but instead he began thinking of the thing that would happen to him after the thought police took him away. It would not matter if they killed you at once. To be killed was what you expected. But before death, nobody spoke of such things, yet everybody knew of them. There was the routine of confession that had to be gone through. The groveling on the floor and screaming for mercy, the crack of broken bones, the smashed teeth and bloody clots of hair. Why did you have to endure it, since the end was always the same? Why was it not possible to cut a few days or weeks out of your life? Nobody ever escaped detection, and nobody ever failed to confess. When once you had succumbed to thought crime, it was certain that by a given date you would be dead. Why then did that horror, which altered nothing, have to lie embedded in future time? This is Winston's girlfriend, if you want to call her that, lover, and Winston is describing her. In some ways, she was far more acute than Winston, and far less susceptible to party propaganda. Once, when he happened in some connection to mention the war against Eurasia, she startled him by saying casually that in her opinion the war was not happening. The rocket bombs which fell daily on London were probably fired by the government of Oceania itself, just to keep people frightened. This was an idea that had literally never occurred to him. She also stirred a sort of envy in him by telling him that during the 2 minutes hate her great difficulty was to avoid bursting out laughing. But she only questioned the teachings of the party when they in some way touched upon her own life. Often, she was ready to accept the official mythology simply because the difference between truth and falsehood did not seem important to her. And this is something that we run into all the time with people. If you're trying to talk to them about 9/11 or Oklahoma City or 7/7 or any of these other things that are going on, Black Rock, the Epstein files, they'll shrug their shoulders and say, what does it matter anyway? And the question is, what does it matter if 2 + 2 = 4? If there are no practical consequences for truth, then what is the point of all this? And Orwell is describing through Julia this person, this archetype, the person who says, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me anyway. I need to get back to watching my television shows. Doublethink means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting both of them. The party intellectual knows in which direction his memories must be altered. He therefore knows he is playing tricks with reality, but by the exercise of doublethink, he also satisfies himself that reality is not violated. The process has to be conscious, or it would not be carried out with sufficient precision. But it also has to be unconscious, or it would bring with it a feeling of falsity and hence of guilt. Doublethink lies at the very heart of Ingsoc, since the essential act of the party is to use conscious deception while retaining the firmness of purpose that goes with complete honesty, to tell deliberate lies while genuinely believing in them, to forget any fact that has become inconvenient, and then, when it becomes necessary again, to draw it back from oblivion for just so long as it is needed, to deny the existence of objective reality and all the while to take account of the reality which one denies. All this is indispensably necessary. Even in using the word doublethink, it is necessary to exercise doublethink. For by using the word, one admits that one is tampering with reality. By a fresh act of doublethink, one erases this knowledge, and so on indefinitely, with the lie always one leap ahead of the truth. Ultimately, it is by means of doublethink that the party has been able, and may, for all we know, continue to be able for thousands of years to arrest the course of history. I'm just thinking of recently, by the time this review comes out, the idea of Elon Musk giving a Nazi salute, and it's all over the papers, and then other people do something similar, like Cory Booker, and then nothing is said. So doublethink, there's a classic example. When Elon does it, it's a Nazi salute. When Cory Booker does it, it's definitely not. That's doublethink in action. I believe one thing, and I see it, and then I see the exact same thing, and I believe something else. We see this all the time in the media. And that's what's so fascinating about 1984. How did Orwell know about all this? How was he able to project all of this? How was he able to see all this? I often think this about reading Philip K. Dick works. He was so far-reaching, so far-seeing in what he was able to picture for the future. Do not imagine that you will save yourself, Winston, however completely you surrender to us. No one who has once gone astray is ever spared, and even if we chose to let you live out the natural term of your life, still you would never escape from us. What happens to you here is forever. Understand that in advance. We shall crush you down to the point from which there is no coming back. Things will happen to you from which you could not recover if you lived 1,000 years. Never again will you be capable of ordinary human feeling. Everything will be dead inside you. Never again will you be capable of love, of friendship, or joy of living, or laughter, or curiosity, or courage, or integrity. You will be hollow. We shall squeeze you empty, and then we shall fill you with ourselves. What a powerful line. You will be hollow. We will squeeze you empty, and then we will fill you with ourselves. And so much of modern culture is about squeezing any identity, any original thought out of people's minds so they can become hollow, so they can be filled up with whatever else is there. If you already have something within you, if you have something that you're morally ordered to, you understand how the universe works, you cannot be squeezed out and emptied out and hollowed out for some other propaganda to be poured into you. Am I allowing myself to be squeezed out? These are the questions we should ask ourselves. Obedience is not enough. Unless he is suffering, how can you be sure that he is obeying your will and not his own? Power is in inflicting pain and humiliation. Power is in tearing human minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Do you begin to see then what kind of world we are creating? It is the exact opposite of the stupid hedonistic utopias that the old reformers imagined. A world of fear and treachery and torment, a world of trampling and being trampled upon, a world which will grow not less but more merciless as it refines itself. Progress in our world will be progress toward more pain. The old civilizations claimed that they were founded on love and justice. Ours is founded upon hatred. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy. Everything. Already we are breaking down the habits of thought which have survived from before the revolution. We have cut the links between child and parent, and between man, and between man and woman. No one dares trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. But in the future there will be no wives and no friends. Children will be taken from their mothers at birth, as one takes eggs from a hen. The sex instinct will be eradicated. Procreation will be an animal formality like the renewal of a ration card. We shall abolish the orgasm. Our neurologists are at work upon it now. There will be no loyalty except loyalty toward the party. There will be no love except the love of Big Brother. There will be no laughter except the laugh of triumph over a defeated enemy. There will be no art, no literature, no science. When we are omnipotent, we shall have no more need of science. There will be no distinction between beauty and ugliness. There will be no curiosity, no enjoyment of the process of life. All competing pleasures will be destroyed. But always, do not forget this, Winston, always there will be the intoxication of power, constantly increasing and constantly growing subtler. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. I first read this book when I was 18. That quote made an impact on me then. To this day, it still does. George Orwell's 1984, as I said, I didn't go through the plot. I just read some excerpts for you, and I hope that those excerpts got you excited about reading the book if you haven't read it before. It will definitely change the way that you see things, not just for yourself, but the way that you see the world. If you'd like to get a copy, there's a link in the description. That's one of the ways that you can support this channel. If you want to support the channel for free, you can hit like, subscribe, share this with other people who might be interested, or if you've ever talked about this book with a friend before, maybe send this to a friend. If you'd like to thank me for this presentation, there's links to PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee below. If you want to thank me on an ongoing basis, there's links to Patreon and YouTube membership. You'll get early access to videos like this one. You'll have a chance to chat with me behind the scenes, and you'll also get access to videos that I don't upload to the channel to the general public, just privately for my members and patrons. If you'd like to sponsor a book for the future, navigate to my Amazon wish list below, and you can look at all these different books that I have, some on France for the Americans in Paris channel I work on, some on Palestine for my Palestine bookshelf channel, and then everything else will be for this channel. So if you buy a copy of the book and send it to me, you've in effect sponsored the video, and I'll do my best to review that in a timely manner, after obviously thanking you for buying the book. As always, until next time, enjoy your reading.